Once upon a time, nestled between great mountains, there was a small village. This place was filled with greenery, sunshine, and cheerful people. In this very village lived a little girl whose beauty was legendary. Her eyes were as blue as a clear summer sky, and her hair shone with a golden shimmer. Her mother and grandmother loved her so much that they granted her every wish. Her grandmother was especially doting, and one day, as a token of her love, she gifted her a red knitted hood. The hood suited her so well that the girl never took it off, and so everyone in the village called her Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood had a wonderfully happy childhood, full of her parents' affection and her grandmother's warm stories. One fine day, when her mother had baked a delicious kada, a type of sweet Georgian bread, she gave Little Red Riding Hood a special task. "My little one, my joy, I've heard that our grandmother is not feeling well. Please take her this kada and a jar of butter to help her regain her strength. Be careful on the way and do not talk to strangers." Her mother reminded her once more to not stray from the path and to go directly to her grandmother's house. Little Red Riding Hood happily took the basket and merrily set off on her way. She missed her grandmother very much and was eager to see her. The grandmother lived in a neighboring village at the edge of the forest. The girl walked along the path as if she were singing. The silence of the forest was broken only by the sound of her footsteps and the rustling of leaves. As she went deeper into the forest, Little Red Riding Hood unexpectedly came across a large and wicked wolf. The wolf was hungry, and his mouth watered at the sight of Little Red Riding Hood. But he was afraid, because he knew that woodcutters were working nearby. He came up with a wicked plan and decided to use the girl with cunning. "Hello, my little one. Where are you going all alone?" the wolf said in a friendly voice. Poor Little Red Riding Hood, who had little life experience, forgot her mother's warning. She fearlessly replied, "I'm going to see my grandmother. She is sick. My mother sent her this kada and a jar of butter to help her get better." The wolf waited impatiently for her to finish speaking. "Where does your grandmother live?" "Right behind that mill at the edge of the village is that little house you can see from here," the girl answered. When the wolf had all the information, he cunningly suggested, "Let me tell you something. How about we have a race? I'll take this road, and you take that pretty path with all the flowers. Let's see who gets there first." Little Red Riding Hood enthusiastically accepted the offer. The wolf, with all his might, ran swiftly along the short path, as his plan was already set. Little Red Riding Hood, however, walked merrily along the long path. She gathered hazelnuts, picked beautiful flowers to make bouquets, and chased lovely butterflies fluttering in the air. She was so naive that she couldn't imagine the misfortune that awaited her. The wolf arrived at the grandmother's house much earlier. He went to the door and knocked. "Who is it?" the grandmother asked. The wolf changed his voice and whispered in response, "It's your beloved granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood. Mother sent you some kada and some butter." The grandmother, who was lying in bed with a fever, didn't realize that the voice was strange. She replied, "My child, pull the latch and the door will open." The wolf pulled the latch rushed into the house, immediately attacked the grandmother, and swallowed her in one gulp. The wolf quickly put on the grandmother's nightgown, covered his head with a cap, wrapped himself in the blanket, and waited for Little Red Riding Hood. A little later, Little Red Riding Hood, who had finished her flower bouquet, reached her grandmother's house. She went to the door and knocked. A voice came from inside, but it was deeper and stranger. A cold wave of fear washed over Little Red Riding Hood's heart, but she calmed herself and thought, "Grandmother must have a cold, and that's why her voice is like that." She replied, "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood. Mother sent you a delicious kada and some butter." The wolf, wrapped in the grandmother's clothes, answered in his deep voice, "Pull the latch, my child, and the door will open." Little Red Riding Hood entered the room and, seeing the wolf lying in bed, didn't understand what was happening. The wolf pulled the blanket over his face and said, "Come here, my little one, and lie down with me." The girl approached the wolf disguised as her grandmother and immediately noticed that something was strange. She asked, "Grandmother, what big hands you have." "The better to hug you with, my girl." "Grandmother, what big ears you have." "The better to hear you with, my girl." "Grandmother, what big eyes you have." "The better to see you with, my girl." Finally, the greatest fear came over Little Red Riding Hood when she saw the wolf's huge teeth. "Grandmother, what big teeth you have!" The wolf replied with a cruel smile, "The better to eat you with." With those words, the wolf swallowed the little girl and sighed heavily. Just then, as the wolf was satisfied with his victory, a hunter passed by the house. He heard a strange noise, thought something was wrong, and decided to check. When he entered the house, he saw the wolf lying motionless in the bed, his stomach incredibly bloated. The hunter took out his weapon, killed the wolf, cut open his stomach, and pulled out the grandmother and Little Red Riding Hood, both unharmed. Everyone was happy that this terrible story had a good ending, and Little Red Riding Hood learned that she should always listen to her mother and grandmother and never trust strangers.